Okay, first of all, I'll say welcome to Flipside. And today we're talking about something that has been trending for the year 2021. Okay, so if you follow foreign news, especially entertainment news, you would realize that Kim Kardashian and Kanye West are in the middle of a divorce. And inside this old divorce drama, Kim Kardashian just became a billionaire, and her estranged husband is also a billionaire now. And even in the midst of this old divorce saga, they're saying they want joint custody for their kids, they don't need spousal support and all that stuff. Okay, but before Kim Kardashian and Kanye West story made headlines, we heard about Elon Musk and his wife separating, and she's already moved on to be with a teacher. Okay, and while we're still dealing with that, yesterday it was all over social media, it was on the news, on television and radio, that Bill Gates and Melinda Gates are also going to get a divorce. So the issue of divorce is not a new thing. We've heard divorce issues before, but these seem to be people many people look up to. They have them as mentors, and Bill Gates' marriage seems to be one of those. People just say you can make money and still be able to manage family. You see Bill Gates, they've been married for a while now, they're still together, but that marriage is also coming to an end. And so this trend, the curses, the patterns, the consequences of divorce as a social issue is what we're going to be looking at on Flipside today. I have a lawyer in the studio with me, and because I have some legal questions to also ask, I have Barrister Chima Williams on Flipside. First time on Flipside, but definitely not first time on ITV. Good to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question I have, in the course of reading about divorce, I know what divorce is and all that stuff, but I kept coming across divorce. I saw legal separation. So I want to know, what's the difference between both? If you're legally separated, isn't that divorce?
Well, not really.
Okay.
First is that the issue of divorce is not an issue that is taken lightly, both by the law and by society, and then religiously, the Bible forbids divorce. Okay, so, and this is why the conditions for divorce is very stringent. Okay, and when we talk about separation, legal separation, and divorce, separation is a step before, divorce, because the law enjoins all parties to ensure that the sanctity of marriage is protected.
Okay.
So, separation is a situation where there are issues that needs to be resolved for the marriage to either continue or to collapse. Okay, so in a legal separation, the court orders the spouse, to live apart for a period of time, mostly within a period of 2 years, to see if they can come back, tempers calm, the issues, because within the period of separation, spouse, they will continue to interact. They are allowed to interact, and it is only after that period of possibly 2 years, if there is no reconciliation and it is deemed that the marriage has broken down irretrievably, then divorce processes can, commence fully and may be granted. So separation is a process to see if the marriage can be recovered, so to say.
Okay.
Whereas divorce is when
it's total.
It's totally gone, everybody on his own.
Okay, you said if divorce may be granted. It seemed like there are some cases where you could file for divorce and still not be granted.
Sure.
Oh, really? Okay, I want to know about that. But before you go into details of that, what are the grounds, legal grounds for divorce?
Well, under the Matrimonial Causes Act, which is the law guiding issues of, marriage, dissolution of marriage, and custody and the issues like that. There are different issues that can lead to dissolution of marriage, which is what is called divorce. One is that there are marriages that are called void marriages.
Okay.
So ab initio, those marriages were not in existence in the eyes of the law. Such marriages could include where teenage marriages, marriages without consent.
Okay.
Okay, where one of the spouses did not consent or below the age of
Giving consent.
So those are marriages that are already void, or there were contraptions, there were issues that were hidden, that if they were present, that marriage would not have been contracted in the first instance. Okay, now those are void marriages. So when it comes to an issue of contestation, it could easily be voided. Now they are voidable. The second pattern is the voidable marriages.
Okay.
Those are marriages that, if allowed, can continue to exist, can be legalized one way or the other. But if one of the spouses raises issues on it, it can be voided. But there are conditions that will have to be present for that to happen. That is why they are called voidable marriages. Okay. And of course, the critical elements to ground divorce easily, both from our religious and our, social circles, is the issue of adultery.
Yeah.
Okay. Adultery, even the Bible, when the Bible talks about adultery, it made it difficult for marriages to be, dissolved once contracted. Because what is adultery? Adultery is an unholy relationship between married couple, a married man and a married woman. That's adultery by definition. Okay? So, illicit relationship between a married man and an unmarried girl is not adultery.
Really?
Because it is now, one is supposed to be adultery, the other one is supposed to be fornication. Okay? So to show that, the elders thought about marriage as a very strong institution that is supposed to be kept once contracted. Okay? And then, of course, the last that I want to talk about is, marriages that are not consummated. You can have a legal marriage. Everything is perfect, everything is in order. But if there is no conjugal relationship in that marriage for a period of 1 year, it can lead to separation. Okay? Because a marriage is supposed to be consummated. So once that consummation is not there, then that marriage, there is problem in that marriage for whatever reason.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, now this part where you talked about adultery and fornication, I think I need to do a thorough research on that one by myself.
Yeah, you should. You should. Read your Bible.
I will do that.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Now, in the first definition, you said may be granted. So I'm thinking if a couple says they're tired of being together, like the reason Melinda Gates is given is we can't grow together anymore. And for her, that's reason enough for the marriage to break. She wants someone she could keep growing with. So what situations could there be that would make the court say, I know you've applied for a divorce, but we're not going to grant it?
Yeah, the scenario of Bill and Melinda Gates, the two parties are consenting.
Okay.
So once there is consent on both sides, the court will give vent to the will of the adults. Okay? But where one party says, I want a divorce, this man is not treating me well. Okay? And the man comes to court and says, look, I love my wife. I don't want to give her a divorce.
Wow.
I will make amends. The court will be very wary to grant such a divorce, except the woman or the man, one of the sides that are saying I need a divorce, presents a very compelling reason, most cases bordering on infidelity or life-threatening activities. Okay? Otherwise, the court will be circumspect in granting such a divorce, because it will be considered that there could be opportunity for recovery of that marriage.
Wow, that's a lot of complications. Okay, in an unhappy marriage, I remember this, I had to ask this question because I was in an argument with my husband and some of our friends. It was more like a debate, and we talked about the issue of divorce at length. And I said, when you're unhappy in your marriage, sometimes you try, that's why you hear parent and couples say they go for couples counseling. Some would finish that counseling and they still are unhappy. The reason that has brought the unhappiness has not been dealt with, so they should separate and go their different ways. And I was like, no, unhappiness is not like you're about to die. I'm like, unhappiness can lead to depression, and it was a very serious argument.
Yeah.
But are there other options other than divorce? Because it sounds so total. When you have an unhappy marriage, at least you're a married man.
Yeah, when one of the spouse is unhappy with the marriage, okay, which means there is something that the other party is doing that is causing the unhappiness on the other side, and they have tried everything. It seems not to go away. The unhappiness is there. But don't forget that some people are naturally unhappy people. Okay? Yeah, they can be men, they can be women. It is your choice to be happy, it's your choice not to be happy. Because if you want to live an unhappy life, I can tell you there are 1,000,001 reasons present that will make you unhappy all the days of your life. And if you want to be a happy person, there are 1,000,001 reasons present that can make you happy, irrespective of the circumstances, around you. Okay, so it is a matter of choice and the mindset. Now, a situation where one of the parties has a mindset that makes him or her feel that all the effort by the other party, including to create some changes, to just make him or her understand that this marriage can be recovered, seems not to work. That is the situation where legal separation comes in.
Okay.
Because within the period of legal separation, you are enjoined to continue to talk. The only thing is that you may no longer live together, under one roof. And, they say time heals all wounds. And distance, nurtures relationships. Okay, so when you don't see yourselves every day the way you used to see, and every little thing you quarrel, you fight, and the rest of them, when that is not happening, time for retrospection can come in. And then within that period, one may start missing the other. From missing, it will be okay, it's not in all circumstances anyway, but in more circumstances than not, that has helped to recover, except where the two adults have consented to go their separate ways, which could be as a result of so many reasons. Okay? Yeah.
Okay. I remember reading a story in one of the national dailies recently of a couple who had their case in court, so they gave them 2 years separation. But before the end of the 2 years, the lady ended up being pregnant for the man again. And so people were all over commenting like, it's obvious she still wants to be together. And she was saying, no, she knows she's going to have a baby for him, another child, but she doesn't just want to be wife. And it was just a lot of buzzwords on social media, Jerry. It can happen though.
Yeah, it can, because, in this part of the world, it might seem a taboo. You know, how that you are not husband and wife, you are pregnant for the guy, okay? But in some societies, people have live-in partners. They don't call themselves husband and wives.
Yeah.
In Europe, they have partners. You know, they live in, they procreate, okay? They have children, and at a point in time in their lives, if they feel that they have, you know, enjoyed that partnership so well that they want to come together now as husband and wife, you know, they advance to that stage. If they equally feel that, look, this partnership, we have had the best of it, go and try other things, they separate. So such a scenario can happen, you know, where within that period of talking, one thing can lead to the other. But the key issue that created that separation may not have been resolved. And people may understand that, you know, they could be better off. They could be better friends, okay, you know, living apart. Okay, so such scenarios can happen, that it is not advisable.
Wow. Okay, well, I remember when there was a divorce case in Nigeria here of a very popular preacher. I'm not going to mention names, and I used to follow them, use their devotional. I'm not a member of the church, but I was just a diehard fan of their marriage, in quotes. And when they were separating, you know, the woman was all over social media talking about the issues that led to the separation. The man was very mute about it, still is. They've officially separated, but you can never find out what really happened from the man. And since he's not agreeing to what she said, I cannot say for sure that, okay, this was really what went wrong. But I was going through pains for the marriage that I was not a part of. And many people are like that. So you just have this person in your head, a mentor you see as a standard. And if you're not careful, you could even fall into depression for the challenges they face. So we have a small documentary for y'all. It's titled Depression and How to Deal with It, so that you, apart from carrying another person's headache, some people are also going through some stuff on their own, the country stuff. It's different from what we're talking about, but when we come back from this break on depression, we'll talk some more about divorce as a social problem. There are many times in the course of life that you may feel overwhelmed and distraught. It is actually healthy to feel down from time to time. If not, you wouldn't be a human being. But when that feeling of being down begins to stick around longer than a couple of weeks, you might be suffering from a more serious condition known as clinical depression. Well, if you're experiencing a bout of depression, don't feel alone. Mental health expert says at least 30 million people deal with mild depression every year. But before we get to the home remedies for depression, let's learn a little bit more about the condition. Depression can be genetic, that is, from parents to offsprings. It can be from major stress like from losing someone, medications like birth control pills, hormonal changes like after childbirth or during menstruation. Depression generally isn't a disorder that you can treat on your own, but in addition to professional treatment, these self-care steps can help restore your balance. The first thing to know is to learn about depression. Education about your condition can empower you and motivate you to stick to your treatment plan. You also have to encourage your family to learn about depression to help them understand and be more supportive of you when you are depressed. Another thing is to pay attention to warning signs. You have to work with a doctor or a therapist to learn what might trigger your depression symptoms. Make a plan so you know what to do if your symptoms get worse. Some of these signs include guilt, irritability, sadness, anger, loss of appetite, and weight loss. In helping to combat depression, you have to get exercise. Physical activity reduces depression symptoms. Consider walking, jogging, and swimming. gardening, dancing, or taking up any activity that you enjoy doing. Another way to self-care for depression is to avoid alcohol and illegal drugs. It may seem like alcohol or drug lessen depression symptoms, but in the long run, they generally worsen symptoms and make depression harder to treat. So, talk with your doctor or therapist if you need help with alcohol or substance abuse. Get plenty of sleep. Sleeping well is important for both your physical and mental well-being. If you're having trouble sleeping, talk to a doctor about what you can do. You can also take warm milk and honey. It helps. When you are depressed, you should try to focus on friends and family. Leaning on others is one of the healthiest things you can do to get through a tough time in your life. You can't make it on your own. You need others to survive. Learn to laugh. Laughing actually triggers the same endorphins that are affected by exercise. Watch your favorite movie. If possible, try to find humor in your situation. Get a comedy and watch. Think happy thoughts. A recent study found that people who learn to have more optimistic attitude are less likely to become depressed, even if they were naturally pessimist. Changing the way you perceive life can have a dramatic effect on your mental health. You should also eat a happy diet. Eating healthy can help with your mood in general, but there are some foods that can help with serotonin, the chemical in the brain that contributes to happy. Some foods are serotonin enhancers, helping to raise serotonin levels naturally. You can either take those foods or you can take supplements, or you can add more B vitamin rich foods to your diet. Food rich in vitamin B includes mackerel fish, cheese, shellfish, spinach, bell pepper, turkey, fish oil, omega-3 fatty acids, sour cherries, and eggs. If you lack all these important vitamins, you may be shortening your mind as well as your body. And now, still on your diet, steer clear of coffee. While there are many claims for the benefits of coffee, when it comes to depression, it just doesn't mix well. It's true that caffeine will give you a quick boost in your mood, but you're going to come crashing down in a moment. Being exhausted but wired and over-caffeinated doesn't do anything good for the chemicals that regulate the mood, and it can, in fact, affect the serotonin synthesis in your brain by reducing it. And lastly, you have to see a therapist if your depression persists for more than 3 weeks. Seeing a therapist has a negative connotation in today's society, and I tell you it is a wrong view, because seeing a therapist can pull you through many hard times. Those peaceful sessions with a therapist can get some weight off your chest. So don't be ashamed to see someone. It is hugely helpful and allows for some much needed relief from your thoughts and emotions. Depression may only happen once in your lifetime, or it may come back several times. Major depression usually lasts for weeks or months, and it is disabling. It can cause you to lose interest in work, sleep, food, fun, in hanging out, and in catch-ups. Treating depression doesn't have to mean hours of counseling or days fueled by pills. Those methods can be effective, but you may prefer natural methods to boost your mood. So, follow these self-care helps, and if your depression persists after doing this, see a psychiatrist, a doctor, or a therapist. Your body is your responsibility. Take good care of it. Alright, divorce as a social issue is what we're talking about. I'm Daisy Lira Sikidi, and I have my guest here, Barrister Chima Williams. So we've talked about lots of legal grounds on how to get the divorce, and I want to ask this one too before we talk about the consequences of this divorce. How much does it cost to get a divorce in Nigeria?
That is a $1 million question. Yeah, because first is that for me as a lawyer, I always stand against divorce. Okay? Because I know that there is no marriage that cannot be reorganized and saved. But for those that indulge in marriage dissolution, for whatever reason, I wouldn't know. Everything, is like going to the market to buy things. There is no fixed price for any commodity in the legal profession. Okay, so some may do divorce cases pro bono, for instance, and some may charge legal fees, and some may charge extra. It all depends. And then it equally depends on the status, the social status of the parties involved, and what is to be gained out of that separation or divorce. Because some divorce, like, sorry to use this Berlin Gates and Bill Gates, and the analysis you gave of the Kardashians, who became richer when they announced divorce.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to look at some of these high-profile personalities that get into divorce without telling the world the reason why they are going into it. Could it not be political? Could it not be for status? Or for financial gains? To make the business to boost, or maybe if we are husband and wife, we cannot continue to head this organization and head this organization at the same time. So if we are separated, one can head this, one can head this. On the face of it, we are divorced, but behind the scene, we are still one, talking to each other and doing the things that we used to do. Only that possibly we say, of course, whether you are divorced or not, if you want, you can still have your matrimonial name. Okay, so so Belinda can still continue to answer Belinda Gates, even after having been divorced, if she so wishes.
Wow.
Okay, so we should look at issues from the different perspectives and possible reasons for doing things. It is not everything that is done out of altruistic, beliefs. Okay, so that is why we have to be cautious, in issue of jumping that because this highly placed person, is involved, I should bother myself so much, or maybe begin to think like them, because if you look at it, what could possibly, people think that money is everything. Okay, so but here, in some of these circumstances, money is not the question. Possibly making more money will be the root of it. So,
I actually left that question as my last question to ask. Is it possible to manage so much wealth and family? Because if we're looking at most of the very rich people in the world today, they seem to be having failed marriages as a trend. Even the one, we have the richest one in Africa here, we cannot boldly say this is his wife. It's just been issues upon issues. So maybe I should just ask you now. This is not a legal question though, but you're a married man. So do you think it's possible to manage so much wealth in hundreds of millions and still be able to do well in the home front?
Well, you see, the world always look at the negative for examples. Why not look at the positive side, the positives? There are so many rich people that have run successful homes and families. Okay? There are many men that are wealthy that have always maintained at each point in time of their life one wife. So why are we not looking at those ones as examples? Honestly, it is not totally correct to assume that, because of the large business empire, you cannot run your home. Why don't we look at the examples, the positive examples? People, before they became those super rich, they started growing. And most of these persons, like, It depends on the circumstances surrounding them. Okay? People that grew up together when they were nothing and they made their wealth together mostly tend to stick together till the end, irrespective of the amount of wealth they've made. Okay? And those that had marriage of convenience to grow their wealth, okay, can be likened to some of the reasons why they separate along the line. Okay? But for a marriage that you don't have, kids that you are nursing, you were wealthy, you nursed your children to teenage level and to adults, and then you are separating when your children are already independent. They can take care of themselves, they have been trained, they are already rich people on their own level too. Then can you say it is the management of the wealth that is causing that? No, the answer for me will definitely be no. There are other issues that are not made public, that possibly two of them know about. Okay? Let's look a little bit political. Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela. The man was separating with his wife. Both of them were not happy with that. But because of political exigencies, they had to agree to go through that process. So will you say that it was because they could not manage their fame, that's why they went into separation? No. So we can equally, mention successful marriages. People that are successful in their chosen career or profession or practice, yet they still live happily together. So individuals, I may not ascribe it to,
too much wealth.
Too much wealth, except that, perhaps both parties know that they are deficient in jointly managing, and then they have always been pretending from the onset.
Okay, now, what are some of the possible consequences of divorce, especially on the children?
Yeah, you see, the children are always the worst off for failed marriages, because they are always at the receiving end. Because the child or the children will have the first choice to make between the two parents. Who do they want to stay with?
Allah.
And there is no way you will choose. If you choose your mother, you will miss the father's love and the father's, advice and the rest of them. If you choose your father, you lose your mother's love and care and advice. So whichever way. And in this time, why divorce should be discouraged as much as possible is that at this time, the society we live in today, you have children that are with their parents, their mother and their father, yet they are wayward. Let alone when one side is missing. Okay? You cannot estimate the damage that will do to the psyche and the belief of such individuals. Okay? No matter the level, let's look at the recent one that is trending, the Bill and Melinda, their 25-year-old daughter is already crying because she's still thinking of how she can grapple with the new reality. Okay? And this is already somebody that is already made. She is not, looking towards the father or the mother to earn a living.
Survival.
Okay? But yet, she is already voicing out. This just was announced 2 days ago. She's already voicing out the possible, challenges that she may be facing. So you can now imagine what will be the fate of ordinary children, possibly who looks up to their parents for some kind of succor if they go into a failed, divided home. So the consequences are immense, because social deviance, all the criminality and the rest of them, banditry that is raging. You check. If we do an investigative survey of most of the people that are involved in some of these heinous criminal activities that is going on in this country, I do not think that a son or a daughter who lives and listens to his or her parents will be, so callous at all times to engage in wiping away a whole community, when he or she knows that in killing people like that, you can kill fathers, you can kill mothers, you can kill brothers, you can kill sisters. So could it not be that some of these people, have the background,
Broken homes,
of, coming from infancy, they already have issues with society because they did not enjoy the benefits of a sweet home, managed by father and mother.
okay. The children seem to suffer a lot more. But what about the adults involved? In Nigeria, I think outside of Nigeria, in the Western world, it's not a new thing. It's not a surprise. You're divorced, you have your 5th marriage. Oh, when is that one going to end? So you enter your 6th marriage. People are even expecting it to fail. It's not a big deal. But in Nigeria, it's still a very big deal when you're separated. But people look differently at a man who is divorced than at the woman. There's still the issue of blaming the woman. You could not manage your home. So what would you say about that mentality that we're still carrying, that women still have to be the ones who suffer the most in a broken marriage situation?
Yeah, you see, we must look at culture and tradition. Okay? Like you've just mentioned, in Western societies, because of their culture, their tradition, it means little or nothing to them. But here, because of our culture, it means a lot. And here we run a patriarchal, cultural system where the man is the Lord, in quotes. So the man can do anything. And that is why in some cultures, men are allowed to marry as many wives as they want, so long as they are able to cater for them. Okay? But civilization have shown that those cultural norms are no longer in vogue. They no longer aid anything. In years past, when our great-grands, fathers and, married so many wives, they did that because your wealth value is assessed and measured by the number of children you have. Okay? And because agriculture was the main economic, stay of the time. So the more wives you have, the more
children, the more farm hands.
You have, okay? And the more farm produce you make, and the more, the richer you are classified. But these days, those are no longer necessary. Okay, so now, for me, a man and a woman has the same equal rights. If a woman is not allowed to go into a second marriage, for instance, Some cultures forbid that. A man should not equally be allowed to go into second marriage, because at the end of the day, this is what gives men the license to misbehave. Okay, because at the end of the day, when failure of the marriage occurs, the man feels, well, it is the woman she carried. Of course, everybody will look at her as she cannot manage her home. That is why, she was thrown out of her home. But the man has a harem of ladies that are already waiting to take over. Okay, and that is equally a problem, perhaps attributable to the population figure in terms of ratio of men to women. So if all men are married to one wife, it means that definitely there are some women that are condemned not to be married. Okay, so but the whole summary of it is this: everybody owes the other the responsibility of protection. If a man protects his wife and follows the biblical injunction that a man should, protect, love, and cherish the wife, and the wife should be obedient to the husband. I mean, where there is love, the issue of obedience is a given. But men should not expect their wives to be obedient to them when they don't love their wives. Because the Bible says first, the man must love his wife, and then the woman in return must be obedient to the husband. So let us not put it upside down. The man will expect compelling obedience when you are not, living up to your own responsibility of loving your wife. You have to love your wife first, but women too, you can make your wife, your husband to love you. So I followed a social media posting that where a preacher was analyzing that, look, every man wants to be the king, okay? And if you decide to be the queen to the king, then the king will treat you like his queen. But if you decide to be a soldier facing the king, kings are not, they don't tolerate opposition. So that is it. It has to be a balance. There has to be a balance between, the two sides, and so that society will be better off for it, and all of us will be happier for it.
Okay, and I think you've concluded it. There's no need to ask you the way forward to reduce divorce. You've already said it. Commitment to that vow you've taken. They said love. Please do love. They said submit. Learn to submit. It's not easy. If it was easy, the Bible will not even have need to mention it. So it's not easy, but it's something you learn. Going through school in Nigeria was not easy, but lots of us are going through. We'll finish the one and we'll say, God, it was so hard to get a BSc. And the next year you hear, I'm going for a master's degree. And then you're like, God, Nigeria is stressful. And the next thing you're hearing, the same person is going for a second master's or even a PhD or something. So we keep at it. When you really want something to work, you will put all of your efforts into making it work. I know there are peculiar situations, but that's where openness before you even commit comes into play. Do not pretend to get into marriage. It's not about you now. It's about the future, the children you're going to bring into this marriage. If you're unhappy as a couple, your kids will pick up on that unhappiness, and then you say the child is always depressed, they're not doing well academically. They're also thinking. Children go through your emotional stress. They feed off the energy you put in your home. Well, I am not done talking about divorce. We're still going to talk about another aspect of it. And this time, not just as a social issue, we're going to deal with the moral part of it. And most likely we'll bring a divorcee who's been through this process to also share our experience. And we'll go a little bit religious after I've done my research on that part of the Bible. Thanks for watching. We'll upload the video on YouTube. Please do well to like, subscribe, and watch. You can leave your comments as well. Have a nice day.